I will read off the top 15 haunted houses in 15 seconds. But before doing so, please like and subscribe. Alright, here are the houses. Number 1, the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, Missouri. Starting strong with a very scary house. The Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, which is known to be one of the most haunted places in America due to a tragic history. The 33-room home was built in the 1860s by William Lemp, a successful brewery owner who ended up killing himself in 1904 after the youngest of his 4 sons, Frederick, died. A few years later, his wife also died of cancer in the house. Then in 1922, William Lemp Jr. shot himself in the same room that William Sr. killed himself. As if that wasn't enough tragedy for the one place, in 1949, Charles Lemp, William's 3rd son, shot his dog in the basement of the home and then killed himself in his room. That same year, the house was sold and transformed into a boarding house, where reports of hauntings began. According to Destination America, witnesses have experienced burning sensations and slamming doors. Today, the Lemp Mansion is a restaurant and inn that holds events. On Sunday night, the inn hosts a murder mystery dinner. Number 2, the Villa Axe Murder House in Vista, Illinois. On June 10, 1912, Josiah and Sarah Moore were killed inside their home in Vista, Illinois. Their 4 children and 2 friends were spending the night and were also killed, and to this day the crime remains a mystery. Their home is considered one of the most haunted houses in the country, and guests are drawn to it. People even pay $400 plus to stay for one night. Tours have been cut short often by children's voices, falling lamps, moving ladders, and flying objects. And in 2014, the paranormal investigator stabbed himself after spending the night. Skeptics have left believers. Number 3, the John Harlow House in Los Angeles, California. Los Angeles is one of the best destinations for haunted house hunting, and this home in Beverly Hills has a particular gruesome history. In 1932, it was home to the iconic actress John Harlow and her abusive husband, Paul Byrne, who shot himself in the head while standing in front of the mirror. Their butler discovered him and called MGM instead of the police, so there was tons of rumors that it wasn't actually suicide. Many suspected Byrne's ex-girlfriend, a suspicion exacerbated by her jumping off a boat to her death a couple of days later. Jean moved out after his death, but died only a few years later at the age of 26. But wait, it gets creepier. In 1963, celebrity hairstylist Jay Seinberg bought the home and lived there with his girlfriend, Sharon Tate, until she left him for Roman Polanski. There they were still friends and remained so until both of them were murdered by the Charles Manson cult. Tate was the same age as Harlow when she passed. But back to when the couple lived in the Harlow house, Tate told several friends of creepy occurrences in the home and even mentioned it in interviews. For example, once when she was sleeping in the master bedroom alone, she saw a creepy little man. Her friends say she believed it to be Paul Byrne's ghost. She was so freaked out when she saw the alleged ghost that she ran out of the room and then saw a hanging, shadowy corpse with its throat still slit in the hallway. There were also stories about 2 other people dying in the swimming pool over the years. Number 4, Hotel Monte Vista in Flagstaff, Arizona. The Hotel Monte Vista has numerous paranormal guests that they can't get rid of. The hotel, which opened as the Community Hotel in 1927, named after the townspeople who helped raise the funds for its construction, had a history of underground opium dens, speakeasies, and gambling. Today, the hotel is known for its paranormal activity that haunts some of the rooms and halls. Guests who stayed in the room 220 have experienced the TV changing channels on its own accord, and some have even said they felt cold hands touching them in their sleep. There's also reportedly a phantom bellboy who knocks on doors and announces room service, but when the guests get to the door, no one's there. One of the more popular and possibly most disturbing encounters is the sound of an infant crying in the basement. The hotel website reads, "Staff have found themselves running upstairs to escape the sound of the cries. Though the sounds are very real to those who hear them, there has been no information that has explained the phenomenon." Number 5, Myrtle's Plantation in St. Franceville, Louisiana. Rumored to be on top of a burial ground, the Myrtle's Plantation in Louisiana is home to 12 different ghosts. Built in 1796, ghost stories center around the tale of an enslaved woman named Chloe, who had her ear chopped off after she was reportedly caught eavesdropping. Seeking revenge, Chloe killed two of the master's daughters by poisoning a birthday cake. She was then hanged by her fellow enslaved people and today is reportedly seen wandering the plantation with a turban on to conceal her ear. Number 6. Hotel Siesti in Los Angeles, California. More cursed than haunted, downtown LA's Hotel Siesti got such a bad rap that it actually changed its name to stay on Main. If you're a true crime and paranormal superfan, you've likely already heard of it. Where to begin? So many bad things have happened here. There's literally an entire Wikipedia page dedicated to its violent history. The first death was recorded by suicide in 1931, followed by a long string of similar deaths in 1932, 1934, 1937, 1938, 1939, and 1940. At some point in the 30s, one man was pinned to the exterior wall by a truck. A woman murdered her newborn in the building in 1944, and the pattern of suicides continued into the 60s. In 1962, a woman jumped from the 9th floor window and landed on a pedestrian, killing them both. It's worth noting that the two women who died by suicide apparently jumped while their husbands were asleep in the room. In 1964, tenant Ozzy Osgood was brutally murdered, a crime which has remained unsolved. Next, in the 80s, the infamous serial killer Richard Ramirez stayed at the hotel. In the 1990s, Australian serial killer Jack Utteridge lived there. Other weird things that kept happening, but the weirdest was definitely this disappearance and death of a 21-year-old traveler, Alyssa Lamb. A few weeks after Lamb went missing, her body was discovered on the rooftop water tank after visitors and tenants complained about a funky taste. They later found odd footage of her in the elevator from the night of her disappearance. It's difficult to make out what she's doing, and it looks like she's either playing hide-and-go-seek with someone outside the elevator, or she's frightened and attempting to hide from someone, but the doors won't seem to shut. Authorities ruled the death accidental drowning, but because you need a key to access the roof, many suspect foul play. Number 7. Louis Family Mansion in Taiwan. Built in 1929, Mengxing Ghost House is a place of heartbreaking history. Located in the Taiwanese countryside, it's been abandoned since the 1950s when the family fled abruptly. Like all mysterious places, there's plenty of lore around the places. Local legend says that the maid was having an affair with her employer, and the secret came out. She jumped down the well to her death. Then she came back to haunt the family until they finally left. A few years later, it was occupied by members of the Kunming China Party, many of whom also thought to have died of suicide, which has exacerbated its reputation as haunted. People who visit it have plenty of ghost sightings. Number 8. Los Feliz Murder Mansion in Los Angeles, California. During the mid-20th century, this large Los Feliz home was the seemingly happy home of Dr. Harold Pearson and his family until the horrific night of December 6, 1959, when he murdered his wife in her sleep with a ball-pen hammer and attempted to murder his 3 children before drinking acid to kill himself. Fortunately, his eldest daughter let out a scream when he struck her in the head, waking up the younger children, who then walked down the hallway to find out what was going on. During the commotion, they were all able to flee. Before the murder-suicide, he was a successful doctor who invented a new type of syringe after investing most of his money into research and production, but he got screwed out of the rights, leading investigators to blame financial problems. Other creepy details include the passage of Dante's Divine Comedy left open on his bedside table. 2 years later, it was sold to the Esquist family, who used it as a storage unit, and their son continued to do it until he sold it to a couple in 2016 who had plans to fix it up. But it seems to have scared them off because within a few years it was on the market again. Photographers also report a feeling of needing to run away from the house when they got up close to it. Coming in at number 9, we have Villa Delici in Italy. It is a foreboding house. Located near Lake Como, Italy, the House of Witches dates back to 1854 and 1857 when it was built as a summer house for Count Felix Delici. The family was only able to spend a few years there as their lives were mirrored by the tragedy right after it was built. First, the architect died a couple of years after construction. Then in 1862, Count Delici came home to discover his wife was murdered and his daughter was missing. When he could not find her, a year of searching, he died of suicide. His brother moved into the home, and his family continued to live there until World War II. It has been vacant since the 1960s, and an avalanche in 2012 wiped out all the houses in the area, except for this one. Pretty spooky. Number 10. The Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. In 1937, millionaire inventor Norman G. Baker posed as a doctor and turned the hotel into a hospital that he said would cure cancer. Have the chills yet? Baker, who had a fetish for purple, painted many sections of the hospital that color, and today the chimneys still remain purple. In addition to wearing multiple purple shirts and ties, he drove a purple car as well. People came from all over with hopes of curing their cancer, and many of whom were treated died. Eventually, Baker was exposed and ran out of town, and today the property is an active hotel. It's said to be haunted by several ghosts, including a bearded man wearing Victorian clothing and a 5-year-old girl. Number 11. The Mitzpa Hotel in Topano, Nevada. In 1907, the Mitzpa Hotel opened as one of the first luxury hotels in Nevada. With a rich history and elaborate decor, the hotel is best known for the legend of the Lady in Red. While the date remains unclear, the story goes like this. A woman was murdered in her room on the 5th floor. Some say it was a jealous ex-boyfriend, while others say it was the Lady in Red had been caught cheating her husband and he killed her in a jealous rage. Those who've stayed at the hotel say the Lady in Red whispers in men's ears and leaves pearls from her broken necklace on guests' pillows. Guests can stay in the Lady in Red suite to experience it for themselves, and if that's too much for you, the Lady in Red Bloody Mary at the hotel restaurant should suffice. Coming in at number 12, we have the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in Weston, West Virginia. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum was designed to house 250 patients when it opened in 1864. Fast forward to the 1950s, when the facility reached its peak, it had more than 2,400 patients living in overcrowded and inhumane conditions, with some even being kept in cages. In 1994, the asylum closed, and today there are reports of paranormal activity with souls of patients lingering and roaming the halls. You can take an overnight ghost hunt tour from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. in the asylum, a 2-hour paranormal tour from 10:30 p.m. to 12 a.m., or a 90-minute day tour. Coming in at number 13, we have the Merchant's House Museum in New York, New York. Seeing it as the only preserved and intact family home from the 19th century in all of New York City, it makes sense that this house has been a source and subject of many ghost stories. The Treadwell family lived here for 100 years, and the last family occupant was Gertrude, the youngest daughter who died in the home in 1933. Staff, visitors, and even nearby passengers say they experience weird, disembodied things there. Don't buy it, you can take a candlelit ghost tour yourself. Coming in at number 14, we have the Queen Anne Hotel in San Francisco, California. In 1980, the Queen Anne Hotel in San Francisco was an etiquette school for girls. Today it has 48 rooms for guests, although some believe the ghost of Miss Mary Lake, the school's head mistress, still lingers. Folks who stay in the room 410, Miss Mary Lake's former office, have woken up to find their blankets closely tucked in around them or their clothes unpacked. Lastly, coming in at number 15, we have the Lizzie Borden House in Fall River, Massachusetts. In 1982, Lizzie Borden was the main subject for the axe murders of her father and stepmother. Borden was tried and acquitted for several of the murders, and guests who visit Lizzie's house in the Fall River, Massachusetts, say she's heard crackling about it. Others say you can sometimes hear a maid screaming for help, and that Lizzie's slaughtered parents stalk the grounds. You can experience the paranormal activity yourself by visiting the Lizzie Borden House, which is now a museum and bed and breakfast. Thank you for listening. As always, please like and subscribe. It helps me create more content. Have a great day.